Hello, and we're live on Fun Frolicking Friday.
Happy Fun Frolicking Friday! So, okay, guys, I am really excited, pumped up, fired up. Where we're going today, this is my passion. This is my mission. This is what I feel like I was incarnated for. I think many of us, this is in our lineage. So, we are going to discuss the beginning stages of creating sacred, safe space for the sex industry. All those involved, all those curious, and have conversations. I can already feel myself getting fired up because, like, I know this is really intense. And so, also, potential trigger warning, just want to put it out there now. So I am really excited. And yeah, we have plans to be here for about an hour. We have two other amazing special guests that I'm so excited to have. And then we're going to have some pop-up clubhouse rooms over the next couple of days, and our big room on Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for about 2 hours with a little break. And then we're going to open up a decomp room thereafter. And this is just the beginning of so much more to come. And all of us here and many others behind the scenes have been calling out to some pivotal people involved in the industry, as well as the education, the arts, the therapeutic value, the spiritual value, the kinky sides, and so much more. So, with that, I would love to pass it on over to Careza. If you could share why you're here and continue highlighting, your intentions and what brings you, why this topic, and also, what do you guys think we need to talk about or highlight for our viewers? And on that note, we will see all of your comments. So if something comes up for you, please do chime in. If you know someone that could benefit from this, please do share it out with them. Or you could just click like. And yeah, Careza Cakes.
Lovely. Thank you, Candice. Well, I'm really excited to be here to talk about the topic. I think we need to destigmatize what being a sex worker is, because it is no longer about being a prostitute. It also incorporates educators, healers, entertainers, and so on. So to say that sex work is only about prostitution, that's wrong. I think we also have to allow people to speak their mind on both sides and really hear each other. Because everyone has an opinion. As long as people aren't hurting each other and bashing people, then I feel that they should have a right to speak, even if it's against that. And maybe we can open up their minds to another way of viewing it and seeing it. Therefore, it would shift their worldview on it as well. So with that, I pass the mic to Andrei.
I can't help but want to say the dildo mic. That's a fun thing we do in our clubhouse rooms. We call the mic the dildo.
That is what we dubbed it in our clubhouse rooms.
I'm sorry. The dildo.
I mean, they do look like dildos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All sorts of interesting textures on the end to play with. I mean, yeah.
And we do talk to wands. Okay, let's move on. Anyways.
The wand whisperers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am Andrei Knight. I am the founder of the Tantric Awakening Club on Clubhouse, as well as the tantricawakening.net website, which is going to be a social platform free of censorship where practitioners, educators can post their content, connect with their audiences. It's going to have all the features of Facebook. The only difference is most everybody in the community is going to be energy aware, tantric, sexually open, and yeah, it's just a way for people to connect with like-minded peeps and connect with professionals in the industry when they need guidance, advice, things like this. So we're very excited. For now, it's just a placeholder. We're asking people to give their email address so we can notify you when the site goes live, and links to all of our socials so you can connect using whatever platform is your current favorite. So that's a little bit about me and what I do. I'm a meditation and tantra coach, and like you guys, it's my passion. I live it and breathe it, and it's time these topics came out of the realm of the woo and the taboo. And the way we do that is by having raw and real conversations like this one. What I think would be beneficial for our audience that I would love to put forward, Candace, you asked what we should cover. Um, First of all, maybe defining what sex work is and what sex workers do, because there's a lot of misconception around that. Some history for context, because it wasn't always like the dark profession of, poorly lit alleyways that we think of today or that is portrayed in Hollywood. Um, there were temples built to these arts and these practitioners by ancient and wiser societies in the past. So context is always helpful. And then, yeah, let's talk about ways to de-shame this, because, there's so much more to it than just getting off. So much more. Like, I'm really passionate about this kind of work, partially because I know the historical context and I understand it to be the profound healing and spiritually awakening art that it is. And it's time people understood that side of it. I mean, people built temples to these practitioners, to honor what they did. And it's not just in the ancient world. One of them that's still standing, this might surprise people, Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame was originally a tantric temple built in honor of Mary Magdalene. The name Notre Dame means the most notable of the dames.
Yeah.
That's literally what it means.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I am so
That's some of what comes up for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting that. That's just, and it was so alive this morning for me, thinking about the reality that we all come from a lineage of prostitution, of sex work, however you want to label it, whatever it was labeled at the time. Some of us may not have been created because of it, but we go back so far, and this practice or profession, this offering goes back really far. So thank you, Andrei. I'm curious. Gonna take the dildo?
Thank you very much, Candice. Thank you, Careza, and thank you, Andrei. First of all, I have to say that it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you on this live, especially when we're talking about introducing a topic that is so taboo in society, and it's been taboo for hundreds of years. And what happens is we have spikes of interest through film, through music, through advertising that creates conversation. And I feel like the real intention behind this meeting, behind this room and experience that we're going to be holding, is for us to bring information to the forefront, the educational side of it. Even having the brief conversations that I've had with you guys so far, I've had my mind expanded in regards to, like, sex work is so much more of a spectrum than you might typically think. So bringing this kind of information to people all over the world through media and social media, through Clubhouse, through holding rooms and events, is definitely something that's needed. And I know that for sure, as I've been speaking about this event on Sunday, in rooms on Clubhouse and with other friends, they've been affirming that yes, this is definitely a conversation that needs to be had. We need to expose some of the hidden, the traumatic stuff that takes place within us, but at the same time, we're bringing this sense of relevance and sense of presence to it at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to having that conversation. And I'm really happy to be here as a contributor towards this. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Curious Anarchist, aka Jermaine Gregory, and I have a podcast called Curious Anarchy. We talk about many events, news, topics, all sorts of stuff. So I like to dive deep with topics that I want to explore, and this is definitely a topic that I've been wanting to explore for so long. And it just so happened that Candice happened to be in a space at the same time, and we began sharing, and we were like, yeah, let's do it. So this is what happens when, you know, people come together. And between the four of us and all of the other guests who will be with us on Sunday and the listeners, I'm just really ecstatic, and I'm really happy to be part of this movement. Really, I think that it could really be put as. But thank you all.
Exactly. Movement.
And I mean, there's movement happening. Just sitting here witnessing all of you right now, like, oh, I'm so grateful and just so honored. And yeah, please do chime in, people, with any of your questions, something you want us to talk about, and join us on Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse yet, please do. And you can see all of our links here in the write-up. And Curious and Andrei, anything you want to put out there, just put it in the write-up, the comments there. So I think, you know, there's one thing that was mentioned that would be a good place to start. And that is highlighting the different, let's break down what sex work could look like, the different degrees of the sex industry, however you want to frame it. And one of the first things I want to say before we start that is, I really want us all to realize we all prostitute ourselves for $1 with different services.
Yeah.
Sometimes those services serve our soul and serve us and serve humanity. Sometimes they don't, you know? So I just, even the word prostitute, as much as I don't like it, like when you think about what it actually means, we're all doing it and we all have choice. So there are many people who make a conscious choice to professionally offer services that involve sexual entertainment, or now there's this word edutainment, erotic entertainment. There are sexological body workers. There are tantric healers and practitioners, erotic dancers, strippers, whatever you want to call them. What else? There's so many.
Well, sex surrogates as well.
Sexual surrogates, sexual therapists, you know, in the state, well, in many parts of the world, there's legalities that are entirely different than America. What are, you know, curious, I'm curious, what are the legalities around the sex industry where you are?
The legalities of it here in the UK is that, okay, so you can't solicit it, but you technically you can do it. But they've yeah, so it's where you can't solicit it, but technically the act itself is legal.
Yeah. Are there condoms and vending machines there?
Yes.
No.
In Germany.
No, unfortunately not, no.
Yeah.
Oh, in Germany. See,
even you can get little like vibrators and things as well.
I did a whole project when I was in college for I went to college for addiction treatment, trauma therapy, and I focused a lot on this, and I did a bunch of research about the laws around the world and the history and different things. And so, but yeah, let's put it, you guys, what other words or professions or arts did I miss as like the sex industry goes and sex workers?
I mean, you summed it up pretty well. I would include in that webcam models, people that do OnlyFans, photography. I mean, really, I mean, it runs the gambit. I'm glad you mentioned also like sexological, somatic body work, which a lot of those people have medical training, you know, somewhere in between a massage therapist and a chiropractor, but they learn anatomy, they learn about the human body. Their training is very similar to some medical professionals. I was surprised to learn this. I mean, in America, one of the most sexually uptight countries out there, like in California, somatic sexual body work is actually legal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
We have to go through licensure and
Yay
training.
for our state, right? You complete the necessary training and you're licensed by the state, but it is legal. Wow. You know, all the way down to like in Phoenix, Arizona, there was a case a few years ago where a tantric temple and everybody who were pretty much volunteers working there were busted by the authorities.
Are you talking about with Tracy Elise?
Yeah, a while back. And from what
She
I
might be
understand,
watching. She's on our Facebook. She might be watching us right now. She loves us.
oh wow, well, shout out for your bravery and courage. From what I understand about the case, even what they busted them for was an intake form, which is like a standard massage therapist's intake form, which basically states if you wish any hands-on work, you know, as opposed to just energy work or guidance verbally, if you wish any hands-on work, please check any parts of your body you're uncomfortable with having touched. You know, somebody might have ticklish feet, for example. And genitals was one of the things you could check off. And they were like, oh, prostitution, illegal operation, and shut down a religious temple. You know, in a country that's supposed to have freedom of religion. So there's the spectrum here. It's touch and go, definitely. Canada, Australia, it's perfectly legal, but same kind of issue. Like there's restrictions on how you can promote and advertise, you know? So it's interesting. It's starting to move in parts of the world, you know. This is promising. Let's see how we can agitate the pot and maybe more accurate information about what's involved and what it's like, and you know, less fear and taboo. Maybe that's how we get this happening a little bit faster, because ultimately this isn't like, hey, I want this legal because I want something to do on a Friday night. It's, you know, these are real people doing real work and it's meaningful, and we have to keep them safe while they're doing it. I mean, this is a big part of why it needs to be legalized and more accepted, is we have to keep these people safe. A charity that I do a lot of work with, the Cupcake Girls, cupcakegirls.org, by the way, website worth visiting. They provide health care, some cases when these girls get into trouble in their personal lives, counseling services, assistance with housing, paying bills for people in the sex industry. And what I really love about their mission statement is they say right on there, like, we don't just support sex workers, we are providing basic essential services to human beings that should be available to every human being. And when you think of it from that perspective, it's like, whoa, yeah, these are human beings going to work. Why can't they have the same services, resources, and protections that somebody who goes to an office, you know, to work for some corporation that probably makes chemicals that harm people? You know, we're talking about healers.
There's so much fear, you know, like people are so, this is what I want to break, is the fear. And, you know, you highlighted one of my other big intentions for this is almost like, it's like I've done apprenticeship work. So I've been doing this for about 10 years consciously, professionally. But I also have a history. From the age of 14 to 21, I was a street prostitute. So I've seen both sides. So another intention I have for these conversations and what we'll be creating, not just this weekend, but in the days to come, is a space for those who are making a conscious choice to be in the industry, to figure out how they can be more conscious, how they can honor themselves, how they can really be in service, not only to others, but still really honor themselves. And then, maybe there are those like me, like there was a time in my life, when I got out, when I was 21, I became anti the sex industry. I blamed it. That's what messed me up. It's bad, And then when I got back into it intentionally. So I'm like, this is where I am the most messed up. I think that's exactly where I need to go to figure myself out. You know what I mean? And so there's just so many components. I lost my train of thought of my intent, where I was trying to go with that. But maybe you guys know. So somebody take the dildo and maybe I'll remember.
Okay, if I can just sort of just jump in here at this
Yeah.
opportunity, what Andrei was just speaking on, talking about OnlyFans. OnlyFans was mentioned in there, and we've got like other sites, apps that are also being used for sex work. If they were video gamers, if they were bloggers or vloggers, if they were any other form of like influencer type, videography creators, they would be called content creators. But that term isn't necessarily applied, or you wouldn't necessarily include sex work in content creation. So I think, definitely having an aspect to putting things into a context, as you were saying, Andrei, I feel like that is really, really important, to have that as a basis for the conversation that we do have.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, I think the points I was trying to say is there's a lot of people that have sexual trauma that could heal themselves. Like, that's webcam modeling is where I started finding my safety in a controlled environment. I can explore my sexuality. I can go to that place where I felt like I was the most wounded, the sex industry, and when I've apprenticed other people, I could tell you countless stories of the levels. Like, one woman, the first time that we did a double goddess worship on someone, we were in the middle of the session and we were just meditating and breathing. Nothing sexual was going on other than breathing our energies. And all of a sudden she left. We worked on a table at the time and she walked away. She went and sat down. This is someone who didn't meditate, This is all new to her. All of a sudden she's over there sitting, like this and breathing. I'm like, okay, she's just taking care of herself. I don't know what happened. So later on, what I found out, and she broke down crying. She couldn't understand what happened. She's like, Candace, I was so aroused and turned on, but he was old as fuck. She's like, he was not attractive. I'm like, yeah, because that's not what we're not, like, this is about soul. This is about heart. You know what I mean? Like, we see each other. It isn't about like, and when we get turned on, like I'm turned on right now just by having this conversation. And so expanding our awareness of the healing potential of sexual energy, like it really touches, because that's what we're all made from. So why wouldn't it offer healing to everyone for every element of life?
My background is therapy. The reason I now study, teach, and practice Tantra as a modality is because And my specialty was traumas, abuse, sexual traumas. I worked with a lot of people leaving and transitioning from the sex industry. But then with Tantra, you know, with traditional talk therapy, you're seeing a client 3, 6, sometimes 12 months. With Tantric work, you see people once or twice. You're not covering symptoms. You're not developing coping mechanisms for symptoms. You are getting at the root cause and you are relieving it. You know, you see people once or twice and that's it. They go on with their lives. And what is interesting is a lot of my clients have gone on to be really powerful healers themselves once their sexual traumas were healed, because the medicine tends to be exactly where the pain is. If you've heard that expression, it's so, so true. But also our superpower tends to be exactly where our greatest wound is. So my practice transformed from helping people leave the sex industry to realizing, well, A, there's nothing wrong with the sex industry. Okay. You know, here again, we're shaming something that is sacred. The word pervert, if you look it up in the dictionary, the verb to pervert something, it means to take something which is holy and make it unholy. It's not the sex work that is perverted, it's what people have done around it into sexuality in general. But all the ancient writings tell us, I mean, our genitals are called the Sacral Chakra. It comes from the word sacred, and sacred means something used for a holy or religious purpose. So our society's entire view of this somehow got perverted along the way, you know. So I realized it's not so much that the sex industry is bad and people need to run away from it, because that's almost saying that sex is bad. Now, a lot of the practices in the sex industry are bad because it's a black market kind of thing. It's this half legal, half illegal, shady operation. What we need is more good people to stay in the sex industry and educate others. So my practice has shifted more to like teaching people, whether it's an entertainer in a club, an escort who may or may not engage in anything physical with her clients. You know, they're there for entertainment, for them to look good being seen with her and to entertain him with the wit of discourse. A lot of these women were sent to the best universities in ages past to be educated because they had to talk at a level to keep priests, scientists, and kings interested and engaged. You know, we're talking about highly intelligent people. You know, it's not just about your body or your sexuality, absolutely. But that's what I started realizing is like making people aware of this, your role as a healer, your role as a spiritual guide, your role. Suddenly, these women are not hating their jobs. They're not hating men. They're not getting wounded in the process of doing their jobs. Their clients are walking away with much more than a night of fun and frolic. Like they're being healed and transformed. We're making the world a better place, one person at a time. And these girls are earning, I kid you not, 10 to 15 times more than they used to be. Even a stripper in a club, like literally, we did the math. Her salary went up by 15-fold, and she wasn't sleeping with her clients. They were leaving and going home at the end of the night. Like, yeah, this is just some of what's possible. You know, we can complain about porn, we can complain about the shadier parts of the industry, or we can fix it.
Yeah.
Or we can fix it. You know, and the big worry is, oh, this is a slippery slope. And what about sex trafficking? And here again, the sex trafficking is not by far the minority of sex work. A lot of it is people willingly doing it. But a lot of these people that are involved in the industry, their number one cause is ending sex trafficking, actually. So here again, if it came sort of out of the shadows and became, you know, accepted, legal, regulated responsibly, like we could solve a lot of these problems, including the sex trafficking that everybody's worried about. Like every sex worker I've talked to is passionate about the same topics as the people who are afraid of sex work. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps coming to my mind is that the reality is like so many of us are walking around with wounds that are sexual to some degree or another. Or I just feel like, the core of us is sexual. Like we can have so much healing there. And another area I really wanted to highlight is BDSM and kink. Especially when you're talking about, and this is where my healing started happening. I wasn't into Tantra first. I was a spiritual person. But when I became a cam girl and started doing my own healing through the industry, I had to be in control. And so at first that was behind the screen and usually more dominant. And I've just learned that there are so many baseline emotional, psychological challenges or needs that can be healed, helped, or worked through with BDSM. And everyone that came to me with even just a basic fetish that we just think, we'd say, oh, that's just a fetish. Maybe to them, they only understand it as a physical fetish, but I know it goes deeper than that. People who like humiliation, and so in my work, when I work with this, I weave it together. I really always try to help them hone in and like leave a different person. Like you said something, Andrei, about people come once. And at first I didn't understand, like in business, we want people to come back, right? But the reality is, and what I used to call myself is the destroyer of vanilla sex lives. Like, you'll just see me once, even if it's just a basic, it doesn't have to be the kinky stuff, like you will think differently about sex one session, and that will affect your entire life. It affects the way you relate to everyone. And life is relationships, period. Genitally and not genitally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the topic of the trauma as well, that sometimes that it's passed down to us and we don't even know that as well. Sometimes you may have trauma, sexual trauma, that maybe your parents had, that they weren't able to heal themselves. So by creating you, it comes to you. And so it's your job to actually heal yourself through your own workings or the help and guidance of a healer or practitioner as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we have any comments? Is there anyone?
I just checked it.
No.
Yeah, I didn't see any questions. We had a couple hellos. Subhash Chandler says, love, only love.
Oh. He always sends love.
Yeah.
Love Coach Academy wishes us a happy Friday.
Yay.
Happy Friday.
And we've put up some links in the private chat. I don't know if there's a way to share those.
I can put those up. Yeah.
I just wanted to share something. Can I just share something with you guys?
Yeah, give me 1 second to honor Love Coach Academy, because Love Coach Academy is hosting the show, and how I started the show at the beginning of COVID, we've been running. And Scott Katanis is the one that really coached me and helped me stand up in my Love Coach capacities to do this show. And he has it on his page. So thank you for hosting us, Scott, and Love Coach Academy. And yes, Curious, go!
Awesome. I just wanted to kind of pick up on some of the astrological elements of what we're talking about here. And some of us might be familiar with the story of Lilith. I'm just going to read this quick excerpt here and then kind of just talk about it. Contrary to popular belief, the first woman in the Garden of Eden was not Eve. According to an ancient Hebrew legend, the first woman created by God was Lilith, a woman full of beauty and ability to enjoy her sexuality. She was made of the same substance as Adam, not taken from one of his ribs. All was well in paradise until the time for sex arrived. Lilith didn't want to be a slave to anyone. She wanted to be a companion with the ability to share and enjoy. She didn't want to be subjected to Adam in sexual relations. Actually, she wanted to be dominant in that area. Lilith defied Adam's orders and even God's. That's why she was expelled from paradise. And so it came to be that the woman's sexual power was known as something dangerous, something wrong. Maybe that's why the church has always seen sex as sinful. So that really is extremely powerful in how astrology kind of indicates to us where our sexual prowess, our sexual creativity, the way that we express, and in terms of our natal charts, because we're not just one sun sign, we are all 12 and all the planets and asteroids and all of that. But the Lilith or Black Moon Lilith, it really is that real thrust of sexual creative energy, and wherever that might sit in your house or your sign can determine how you can unlock that power that you actually have inside. And it's not a man or a woman thing or any, you know, between in the spectrum. It's just an energy, a simple energy that we can all tap into and to access. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spot on. Yeah, this is you're right. It's suppress. This is the power to like literally not just heal every wound. And yes, Candace, to what you said, you know, seeing clients less, at least on the traumatic side, is a big bite in business, but that's okay. You can focus on reaching more people rather than seeing the same person over and over. But yeah, it's a bite to that business model, but why stop at healing traumatic wounds? Let's keep going and turn people into super beings by awakening all of their latent abilities. I found that when people start to open up sexually, their intuition, their psychic abilities increase, their creativity increases, sports performance increases. I mean, there's not an area of life that doesn't. Their ability to just attract money and good fortune and good people increases. This is what I've known.
I've seen that in my life for sure.
Yeah. Same. Caressa? Would you say there's a link?
What was it?
Is there a link between like unblocking your sexuality and just about every other area of life just going better?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, yes. Sex is life. So if something is blocked in your sex and something, you know, it's all connected to everything. So it's about having that balance and about that being open to whatever is and seeing that sex is why we're here. It's natural, it's organic, it's beautiful, it is what it is. That's what life is about. Yeah.
But a fully awakened, fully empowered society becomes much more tricky to control, and herein lies the fear, which is why those in power have shamed sexuality, have shamed sexual guides and shaman who can assist people along this path. Absolutely, and suppress the feminine power. We know during the Salem witch trials, like barely 10% of the women burned were actual witches. And I'm including in that 10% the herbalists, the healers, the pagans, the shamans. That's still only 10%. The other 90% were women with an awakened sexual energy. This is what's less often talked about. And the pilgrims, the church, like, ooh, that was a big no-no. The problem was, as we now know, there's this confusion between being sexual and being sexualized. If a woman is enjoying her sexual arousal, like let's say you're walking along the beach. This happened to me in Hawaii. There was this woman naked, laying on the beach with her legs open facing the ocean. So every time a wave came in, it caressed her yoni. And she was loving it, and she was breathing, and she was sighing. And people might look down and appreciate the beauty of that moment, but everybody kept walking. Nobody was trying to hit on her. Just because a woman is being sexual is not an open door to sexualizing her. And this is what happens when society makes something taboo, you see. Um, 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 Yeah, and this is just it. When those women who at that time started feeling their sexual energy were considered dangerous, and it attracted all sorts of the wrong attention. So a man, especially a prominent man from the church or from politics in the time, hits on her, responds to that sexual energy, hits on her. If she says yes, she's a slut and a whore, and she was burned. If she said no, she was disobedient and she was burned. And this is part of this collective wound now that is in our DNA that needs to be healed. I didn't start out focusing on sexual issues and sexual trauma. I studied general therapy, helping people lose weight, quit smoking, quit bad habits, addictions, things like that. I became an expert in sexual issues because all of the people who were coming to me had sexual issues. It was at the root of everything once we dug deep enough. So yeah,
and I think
this work is needed. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Please.
And I think once we can acknowledge that we are all sexual beings, that it's natural, then we can be free of it as well. Then we are it. Then we have no repression. Then we have no illnesses and sicknesses around sexuality. Then we can be nude and walk around like, that it doesn't matter anymore because we're all on the same level as well. That we know, we acknowledge it. It is, we're all sexual beings and it's healthy, it's natural. Then we can go beyond it and we can just, let it be what it is. And then it doesn't have to be sexualized anymore.
And one thing I really want to speak into is like the reality that a lot of those men in power are the primary feeders and clients of the sex industry. Like my heart right now is just hurting, because I just had a conversation recently with a client that they're kind of torn inside because they in their heart they feel like being open about being a client could benefit this what we're but there's so much shame that
someday
a lot of the clients will come out.
Someday, I was saying someday that would be wonderful to see. That would be one of the best ways to legitimize it and de-shame it. But Careza, what you said resonated so much. Sex is life. Literally, our word erotic, you can tell I'm a fan of words. Our word erotic comes from the Greek eros, which literally means life force. So does this conversation pertain to you? Well, I'm not a sex worker. I've never used a sex worker. I've never hired one. Like, I don't know if this conversation is for me. Well, raise your hand if you don't want to be alive. Then maybe this conversation excludes you. But for the rest of us, if you're interested in living and living life more fully, like literally, eros is life. To be erotic means to be fully alive. To be aroused means to have awakened senses. Look it up in the dictionary. It wasn't even originally a sexual term. It means to awaken your senses. Who wants to go back to sleep? Not me.
No.
So, hey, word nerd. I was just thinking about the word hooker earlier. Somebody told me they had a Tibetan unhooking ceremony, and then we were thinking about the word hooker. Where'd the word hooker come from? Is that from the port town? Because we have a port town where the brothels were like, you hooker? Like, do you know where hooker came from?
I don't know offhand, but that would be an interesting one to research. I would guess because, you kind of hook your clients and reel them in.
What about prostitute? Where did prostitute come from?
Well, prostitute also is not a sexual term. It means to sell your value, basically. Like you were saying earlier, anybody who works a job they hate is prostituting themselves. Really.
Yeah.
Any artist that paints something on commission instead of what their heart wants to paint is prostituting themselves. It's not necessarily a bad word. It just means to, do something for money instead of for passion. Really.
Yeah. Kind of like devalue. It's almost like this thing. I don't want to shame it. You know what I mean? But in essence, you're giving a service, but the word prostitution means at the expense of yourself to some degree. Is that what it?
Well, again, I would love to look it up. I would love to really look it up and get the exact definition. But it's like when you do something for the money instead of for your soul's calling.
Yeah.
Or because of, I believe, but let me verify that.
Prostitution, prostate,
Oh, interesting.
institution.
Yeah. That's
Sorry.
interesting.
I'm just curious. How are you doing? I've been thinking about Lilith a bit too.
He's not. Is he here?
Oh, we might have lost him.
I don't.
He might be having a connection issue.
Yeah.
Oh.
I am here. I am here. There was just a noise. There was just a noise in the background, and I had to go and check just to see what it was. I just wanted to briefly touch on again what Andrei was saying, and I think this links back into what Candice and Teresa was saying earlier, in regards to the witch trials and the hysteria around that, and how people have marginalized and isolated people from society. And I've actually done a series on my podcast called The Witch Trials, which is based on the Salem witch trials. And I know a little bit about the history of that. So there were 200 people charged. There were 19 people hung. 14 of those were women and 5 of them were men. So that was quite a bit of insight for me, because it showed me that, oh, it's not just women that were witches, there were men too. So maybe, you know, as men and women alike, we've all come from that lineage, as you were describing earlier, Candice, of healers. And I think the revelation of there being 5 men being part of that really does open up the floodgates for, there's potential, like men can actually access that divine feminine, or that feminine aspect of themselves, in order to create, in order to be herbalists, to be teachers, to be true emotionally intelligent and connected beings, that do not see any kind of discrimination as an obstacle, we're just united with each other in that sense of oneness. So yeah, that's like me. For me, I'm all about oneness and peace and happiness and working through things and overcoming them, education, all of that. So yeah.
There's all gender identifications in the industry, and one of the things me and Kreza were talking about, we want to also, so this is going to be a series, and we'll hone on different components of it, you know, and so we want to hold space for what's it like dating as somebody in the sex industry.
Yeah,
it's a very unique kind of experience, and I think we could all use a unique kind of special support.
Yeah.
They could be really challenging. And so I think that's another component of all of this I really want to bring to life, and what comes up, and people assuming and judging and treating me a certain way because of what I do, versus like seeing me as someone they could date or get to know, you know? Yeah.
Well, it comes again to society's views of it. That's where a lot of this stems from. If we change the views, we change a lot of these reactions. So I have the definition according to the Oxford English Dictionary, and the unworthy or corrupt use of one's talents for the sake of personal or financial gain.
Oh yeah.
That's what
prostitution all over the place.
So basically every politician of every political party of every country in the world.
That's right. That's
I understand it. As I understand the definition.
Yeah.
That is what to prostitute means. And so on board with everything you've been saying. The astrological aspect. This is something interesting. We were talking about this in a room with a couple astrologers. There is an alignment happening in February of next year, February 22nd. To be precise, right after Valentine's Day, conveniently. There's an alignment happening between like Chiron, Jupiter, and Pluto. Pluto's generational, okay? And like the last time this alignment happened, it was the start of both the French and the American revolutions.
Ooh.
But back then, this alignment happened in Libra, which is like the house of justice, legal system, authority, government, precisely. And look what we saw happen. A global empire started to crack at the seams and fall apart. A new system of government started forming. Colonies started breaking away and becoming republics. Like a lot of shifts were happening all over the world. It was in Libra back then. It's going to be in Scorpio this February. So what kind of revolution and shift are the stars aligning us for? Ooh, right. We need some music for that part. Yeah. And to what you said, also curious, what you said about it being a lineage. And Candace, you've referenced this too. Yes, yes, yes. I can tell you the Templar Knights, whose sacred duty for centuries has been to protect and serve the dames, the women of the Temple Arts. It is believed that these professions require skills that are so delicate that it takes more than one lifetime to master. So absolutely there is a lineage, just like with the lamas of Tibet, of recognizing somebody who has done this before in another lifetime, because those are the ones that you kind of want to find early and cultivate their talents and keep them safe as they're developing and embodying those talents. That's why in the ancient days, these people would go to the temples early, often as children or teenagers, partially to be so their skills could be developed and partially to protect them. And you're absolutely right. In the Salem witch trials, most of those that were burned were somebody else's dirty little secret. It wasn't even their own crime that they were punished for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens when you keep this stuff in the dark, which is why it needs to come out and be spoken about more, you know. That's why when I heard you're doing this show, I like canceled all plans. I'm like, yeah, no, this is what's important. These kinds of conversations. Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
By the way.
Well, thank you guys for I seriously would not be able to do all this without you guys. Like, this is a deep, scary, vulnerable thing for me. Like, so at least in the beginning of opening up this door, I'm like, I need you guys, and eventually, but it's so, I think either way, it's going to be, I'm always, when I open up a room around this, I feel like I may always want to have space holders and sacred support, just because it is so, for me, it's very vulnerable because I'm deep in it. I have been doing this for lifetimes. I know that, and this has been my entire life. So yeah, thank you guys.
You're welcome. We have some comments coming in.
Yes.
Anybody say they like my hairy armpits yet?
Let me see. I'll let you know. Nicole Edgecombe says this is such a great conversation. Thanks for sharing the real talk. Somebody had a question about could we describe like some of the services, some of the modalities, what a healing session would look like. You see, there's as many types of healing sessions as there are clients or the issues that they're facing, is my experience. So it's very, very individualized.
Yeah.
From my experience.
I was going to say, if you just joined us at the beginning of the show, we did break down the different kinds, but even in each kind, every person is unique. If you go to my website, you'll see I have a very structured 4 different tiers of offerings. That is for my in-person, and I have another set of tiers for my virtual. So, and yeah, they're all very, very different. And even in my offerings, like when people call, none of my sessions ever look the same. It's very much intuited. Even the same person can come to me for years and will I mean, they change. That's the point. Their needs change, so our sessions change.
Mm-hmm.
They grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And same, I encourage people to DM me, probably Instagrams, the one I check the most often. The website that we posted in the comments, like that has all the links to my socials. So you pick your favorite platform, send me a message, and I usually set up a Zoom call and I spend, 15, 20 minutes getting to know them and what they're going through, and how I can serve best. Like it's hard to give a menu without finding out what the person needs and who they are. So I like to get to know the people I work with, and then I make a recommendation once I do. It's never like a sales call. We just get to know each other. And then I like to sleep on it and I write them a proposal. And we go from there.
Oh, we are probably close, right? Time
It's
wise.
almost at 2:00, a few minutes.
Okay. So yeah, guys, please do, make sure you link up and follow us on the various social media platforms. Definitely get on Clubhouse. But I see us doing many more things on Curious's podcast and Curious's Clubhouse and Tantric Awakening with Andrei on Clubhouse. And I'd love to line up more of you guys. Sorry, some really determined.
Tell them to call back.
I really wanted.
Tell them you call them back.
But we want you guys too. So if you want to make a video, you want to go live, you want to make sure you're there for our Clubhouse event, definitely get in touch so we can line up our schedules. Or if you have an experience like we were talking about, I'd love to hear from more of the clients, and you don't want to share publicly. If you can, create something in text or, find a way that we can still bring your story to life anonymously, I'd be so honored and appreciated and happy to do so. So reach out to us, guys. Anything else? Anybody else?
No, I just appreciate having the conversation with everyone and just being able to share this out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you said it well, Candace. I mean, this isn't the end of the conversation. This is the beginning, where many of us are on Clubhouse 3, 4, 5, 7 days a week, talking about these topics live. So yeah, you see our names below our pictures. Search for us on Clubhouse and follow us. And let's have this conversation live. That's what I love about Clubhouse, is it's not just a podcast. You can pass the dildo, to anyone in the audience. So it's much more of like a town hall, like a conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
Talking
looking
at you, we all get to have a conversation together, a dialogue, and plug in. Whatever your favorite social platform is, plug in. What's that?
You can be naked and nobody will know.
I do one room a week from my bathtub. We started interviewing. We just interviewed one of the stars of Love, Sex, and Goop, the Netflix show, and from our bathtub.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then you had somebody, the woman who wrote the book, and I'm talking to her in the back.
Laid Bear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll be having
Paulina
her.
Tanner from Laid Bear. We had Richard Rudd, the originator of Gene Keys.
Yep.
Ooh.
I mean, sometimes we have people that you wouldn't think of as necessarily tied to Tantra, but this is why you understand, sexuality and life, they are interlinked. You can't talk about the Gene Keys without talking about Tantra. These topics interweave. We've had Daniel Levy of the Mosaic. Yeah.
Tantra is everything. And so definitely we will, just a little wrap up, and I want to hear from Curious too, but we will possibly doing some pop-up Clubhouse rooms between today and Sunday, and our big room 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for about 2 hours in the Tantric Awakening Clubhouse. Then we're going to break for about 30 minutes to an hour so we can all decomp and have our own space and time. And then we'll come back and meet in Curious Anarchy Safe House for a group decomp. So definitely join us on Sunday and keep watch for any other potential videos and things. We're curious, you're talking to a lot of amazing people too that I hope we get to interview.
For sure, for sure. I can be found on Clubhouse. Let me just find my handle so I can actually make it real clear for people.
It's
At
so
_worldwide, but also just search Curious Anarchist as my name is detailed here somewhere. There.
And
Yeah,
if you guys,
and you'll find me.
I was going to say, if everybody looks at the Eventbrite page in that link, you'll see all the information for Andrei, Curious, Candace, Careza, the Clubhouse stuff. It's all in there. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
We got a comment in from Ava East. She says the Clubhouse convos are great. I've received a lot in these rooms. Thanks, everybody. And she sends a heart. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody that joined on Facebook to watch this live. Really appreciate you all.
And if you guys don't know, Ava East is Jordan. She's a frequenter of our rooms on Clubhouse. So just sweet soul. And yeah, I'm complete. Is anybody anything else?
Good.
I'm complete also.
Cool. So
we're on Clubhouse. I am complete.
Cool. So please do, guys, if you have something you want to say in regards to this topic, get in touch. I'd love to arrange a schedule so we can put your voice out there. Make sure we do a Clubhouse room when you need it and you want it. If you have specific requests and needs, things you think that we really need to talk about and highlight, let us know, because we want to do it. We love you. Thank you for being here. Please do share this out publicly or anonymously, privately, with people in groups. And yeah.
Let's get conversations going. Yeah, they need to happen. This is
Thank
how we change things.
you, Careza and Andrei and Curious and Scott Katana for holding the space.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Bye.